Hello everyone, welcome back to the next episode in the series where I teach you guys how to make Minecraft mods without any coding whatsoever. Today we're looking at tools, weapons, and armor. So we're able to make custom tools that can mine blocks more efficiently, as you do in vanilla, armor that helps you absorb damage, and swords, which allow you to attack mobs. Let's get right into it. Alright, let's get started making some custom tools. Now, most of the time we would go up here and add a tool, but in most cases when you're making these tools, you're going to want to make one of everything for the ore that you're making it for. You'll want a sword, you'll want a pickaxe, you'll want an axe, a shovel, and a hoe. And MCreator has actually made it really easy to do this all at once. And the way that we do that is coming up here to tools and then create tool pack. As we can see here, it's able to generate everything for us with just this information. So I'm going to set the base item to an ender pearl. This is the item that's going to be used to craft them. Then I'm going to set the name to endmium, and then this color accent here just allows you to pick the color of the tools that are going to be automatically generated. This is pretty good. It automatically picks from the item that you give it, and I think this is good enough. And for this power factor, I found this to be remarkably inconsistent. What this is supposed to be is a multiplier of how good it is compared to iron tools, but I'm going to just leave this at 1, so it should be identical to iron tools. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and manually edit all of them later to have properties that more accurately reflect what we want. This way you'll also learn how to make tools from scratch yourself if you don't want to go this way. But we're just going to go ahead and click create tool pack, and we'll notice that all of a sudden we got all 5 of these items and then also crafting recipes for every one, which is super useful and super handy. Now I would like to mention though, like I said, if you want to make one manually, you're going to want to add a new tool. Don't add an item. If you add a tool, it'll give you more of the properties of a tool. And that's what MCreator has gone ahead and done for us automatically here. So let us go ahead and edit each of these individually. So we'll start with the pickaxe. This page is just the same as normal. Of course, you could replace the tool texture if you'd like, but we went over all this in episode 1, so I'm going to move on to properties. This is a little bit different. A lot of it is the same as items, but I'm still going to go over it one at a time. Of course, this is the name of the item in your inventory. And here for the creative inventory tabs, I'm just going to switch this out to the custom one that we made for our mod, so it's not sitting in tools with everything else. The enchantability is how good of a chance you have of actually getting good enchantments on this item. And unlike base items, this actually has a function. A lot of these numbers probably seem pretty random, so in order to get a frame of reference for them, if you come to this question mark just beside it, it'll often give you the value of certain vanilla tools that you could then base yours off of. So for endmium, I think the whole ender vibe is a little bit mystical, so I think we should give these really good enchantability. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make it equivalent to gold, which has the highest enchantability in vanilla Minecraft, which like I said, just means that it has a higher chance of getting good enchantments on it. So I'm going to set this to 22. And for the durability, this one's a little bit easier to visualize. It's just how many uses you get on the item. As you can see here, diamond is very high, iron is less high. I'm going to put this somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to give it about, let's say 950. Repair items are the items that you can combine this with in an anvil in order to get durability back. Like how if you combine diamond tools with diamonds, you'll get durability back. So I'm going to set this to an ender pearl, of course. Generally, this is just what you'd craft the tool with, but you can also add multiple. Immunity to fire is the same as regular items, so it won't burn if it's dropped in lava or fire. Staying in the crafting grid when crafted and then damaging item on crafting is also the same as items. It means that when you're crafting with it, instead of consuming the item and deleting it, it will just take durability down. Next up, we can select our tool type, and of course we have the 5 basic ones, but we also have abilities to make more advanced shields, shears, fishing rods, and some other types, which we're gonna ignore for now. They're more advanced, but we're gonna stick with a pickaxe, of course. We already have the other 4. And for the blocks drop tier, as you would know in vanilla, certain blocks require certain tiers of tools in order to be able to mine them. So for instance, obsidian can only be mined by diamond pickaxes, and diamonds can only be mined by iron pickaxes. And so whatever this is set to means that it will be equivalent to that level of pickaxe. So if we set this to iron, we can mine basically diamonds and below, and if we set this to diamond, we would be able to mine obsidian. So I'm going to actually leave this at diamond. This additional drop condition here is a procedure. We will be getting to procedures soon, I promise, but this allows us to specify additional things that need to happen in order for the block that you break to actually drop anything. Now for the efficiency, this is just how fast your pickaxe will mine. We can click on this question mark here just to see what the normal values are, and I want this to be a fairly fast pickaxe, so I'm going to set this to 10, so it's even faster than netherite, but not quite as fast as gold. For attack damage and attack speed, taking a look at this here, we'll see that pickaxes normally have a speed of 1.2, and iron pickaxes have a damage of about 4. I think I want this to be a fairly weak resource though in terms of actual damage, so I'm going to probably make this a 3 with a 1.2 speed. And again, we're ignoring triggers until we touch on procedures, so we can go ahead and just click on save. Next, I'd like to do the same thing for our axe, sword, shovel, and hoe, and I'm just going to touch on the properties that are different for each one. Alright, so for our axe, I've went ahead and moved it to our tab again, up to the enchantability, up to the durability, set it to diamond tier, set the efficiency to 10, and now for the attack damage and speed, we'll note that stone axes and above pretty much all do 9 damage, so I'm going to leave mine at 9 as well. And for the attack speed, this actually differs depending on the type of axe. So we can see here that stone axes are 0.8, iron are 0.9. Like I said, I want mine to be a little worse, so I'm going to make mine 0.8 as well. And that's our axe all done. Now for the sword. Attack speed is always 1.6. What is interesting though is if you go above this, you could make something that attacks a little bit faster, like a dagger or something, which might be a fun little idea. And the attack damage, once again, I'm okay with this being relatively weak damage-wise, so I'm going to leave this at 6, which is about equivalent to an iron sword. Shovels have a very low attack damage. Iron is 4.5, stone is 3.5, so I'm going to put mine at 3 maybe, so it's even worse than that. And their attack speed is actually exactly 1, so I'll just leave that, and we'll move on to the hoe. The hoe universally has an attack damage of 1. Every single type, even netherite, has an attack damage of 1, and then the attack speed is actually different depending on the material. So iron is 3, copper and below is about 2, so I'm going to put mine at 2, and we'll go ahead and save. And with that, all of our tools have been set up and customized, and they should work just as we like them. They even have their recipes like this that were generated by MCreator, but of course you can come in here and edit them if you'd like. And now we're going to move on to armor, which is a little bit more complicated. However, it does have a generator just like our tools, so I'm going to come up here to tools and create armor pack. We'll set the base item to ender pearls once again, and we'll set the armor name to endmium. And once again, power factor is a little iffy, so I'm just going to leave it like this, and we'll create armor pack. Now what you'll notice at this point is that armor, for the helmet, the chestplate, the leggings, and the boots, they're all actually in one mod element. All of the recipes are still different, but all of the armor is nicely contained in one little element. So we'll double click on this in order to edit it. And now this is all of the armor pieces condensed all together. So we can set the name for each of them. We can also turn them off. If we don't want to have leggings, we don't have to have leggings. Or if you want to make something like a turtle shell that's just a helmet, you can just turn off everything else. Now the advanced settings are the same for each armor piece, but I'm just going to come into the helmet to show you guys. The model here lets you override the model of the helmet that shows on your head when you wear it. And this is something that once again we'll get into. It'll make sense once we talk about custom models, which is coming. For the item model, we have the same options, so we can make this a tool model so that the player holds it like a tool, and then of course we can set if it's immune to fire. The glowing effect and special information are the exact same as items. The only other thing that isn't is whether or not it's piglin neutral, which makes it act like gold armor, so if you're wearing it, piglins will ignore you. Let's move on down here to properties, and at this point this is a little bit complicated because this is our armor texture, and it's a little bit different compared to normal textures. This is what it actually looks like, and it gets kind of wrapped and folded, if you picture it like that, onto the player model. Now MCreator has been really nice and actually generated one for us right here, so we don't have to worry about that at all. Let's come up and let's change this to our end update tab. Now for the armor equip sound, this is the sound that will be played when you equip the piece of armor, and in order to find a sound, we're just going to click on edit, and now we can search through, let's type in equip, and now here you can see item armor. This would be equipping diamond armor. This is the sound when you equip an elytra, and they're all slightly different, so I'm going to set this one to diamond. We'll make it sound like diamond armor. Next up, for the damage that armor absorbs, this is not how much defense it gives you, this is the durability of the armor. And if we click on this question mark, we can see the vanilla values. As you can see here, each armor piece uses this value and multiplies it by a certain amount in order to get that item's durability. Chestplates will always have more durability than helmets, so I'm going to set this to 23, right in between diamond and iron. Now for the damage values, this is actually the amount of defense that it gives you. And if we look here on the wiki, we can see that iron for helmets is about 2, chest plates is 6, leggings is 5, and boots are 2 as well. Now in order to make mine a little bit between iron and diamond, I'm going to bump the helmet up by 1, and I'm going to bump the chest plate up by 1. This puts the helmet in line with diamond, and the chest plate right in between iron and diamond, and then makes these two equivalent to iron. And I think that's about right. For the enchantability, it's actually not the same in vanilla as the tools. You'll see that gold armor actually has 25 enchantability instead of 22 on the tools, so I'm just going to mirror that with 25. Now toughness is a bit of an interesting one. So in Minecraft, damage actually isn't applied linearly. What that means is that if something deals you a lot of damage, the armor will actually absorb less than if you were to take a little bit of damage. And what toughness does is it actually mitigates this a little bit. So by diamond armor having a toughness of 2, it means that it's a little bit better at absorbing strong attacks compared to normal armor. I'm gonna leave this at 0 because I want it to have the same behavior as iron, leather, gold chain, the other ones. Now for knockback resistance, this is the amount of knockback that will be protected from by this piece of armor. And this is actually for each piece of armor. So if we set this to 0.1, like netherite, this means that if you're wearing a full set of this armor, you will take 40% less knockback knockback. Once again, with this number, 1 is 100% and 0 is 0%. So for this, you wouldn't exactly want to exceed 0.25, which means that one piece of armor would absorb 20% of your knockback, and having a full set of this armor would mean you take no knockback. But netherite is the only one that actually has any resistance to that in vanilla, so I'm gonna leave this at 0. And at this point, we should be all done to just save it. And with this, we've actually finished adding tools and armor, and we could go in game and test this right now. However, one thing that you might have noticed is that these textures aren't exactly accurate to vanilla. They look a little bit budget, if that makes any sense. So I'd like to replace these with textures adjacent to the vanilla ones. But how do we do that? How do we actually get the vanilla Minecraft textures in order to be able to edit them? Well, stick with me here. If we head up to workspace here and then open workspace folder, this will open our folder that corresponds to our mod that we're making, at which point we can go into build, mod dev, artifacts. And this is where Minecraft is actually downloaded by MCreator. This folder will only show up if you've actually run the game through MCreator at least once, so make sure you go ahead and do that. And the file that we're going to be looking at is this one right here, Neoforge client extra, aka Minecraft resources. Now what you should do at this point is you should actually copy it into a different folder. So I'm going to just right click, copy it here, and we're going to put it into this folder that I made in my downloads. We'll paste it there. But how do we actually get the resources out of here in order to be able to edit them? The first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have your extensions turned on. So if we go to rename this item, we should be able to see this .jar at the end. If you can't see the .jar at the end, come up to view and then make sure that you have file name extensions turned on right here. And once you do that, you should be good to rename this and take off this .jar at the end and put on .zip instead. Hit OK. And now we might get this pop-up. We can just click on yes. And now at this point, we have a nice zip file. And if we open it, we should have this inside of it. And by going into assets, Minecraft, textures, this is now all of the textures in Minecraft. So if we come to item, here are all of the item textures. And you can copy these out wherever you want. Like I can copy this honeycomb into my Minecraft resources. And now I have it right here and I can go ahead and edit it and do whatever I like with it. What I would actually recommend that you do with it is pull out something like the iron helmet texture. We'll pull that out, then come in, rename it to whatever your item was before. So this is going to be Endmium helmet. And then we can come into MCreator here under the resources tab, click on whatever we had before and replace selected. At which point we can click on this iron helmet texture and voila. Now we can come in and edit this texture inside of MCreator and make any changes that we want to it. We should probably make it blue, but we have the vanilla Minecraft texture here for reference. And of course, I'll be providing the textures for what I've done with all of these in the description, so you can go ahead and replace yours as well if you're following along exactly with this, with all of the ones that I've made. You can also do this with the armor textures down here. You can double click on them to open them in the editor, and this is the armor that actually shows up on your player. There's actually two different files for this. There's this layer 1, and there's this layer 2, which has just the leggings. I'm not entirely sure why this is, but this is how it works inside of Minecraft. And if you want to find these, it's going to be under Assets, Minecraft, Textures, Entity, Equipment, Humanoid, and these are all of this first one here. So you can open up like iron, for instance. There it is. And then also we'll go back one and humanoid leggings, and that is the second one. Just like this little leggings one right here. Of course, if you don't want to go through all of the trouble of opening your Minecraft files and doing stuff like this, you can also just download the ones I have in the description and base it off of those. So I've also went ahead and made our layer 1 and our layer 2, just like this. And these are based off of the iron armor texture. I just recolored them. I'm not that creative. And now I would say it's a good time for us to test our mod. So I'll just come up here and click on the run button and we'll see what happens. All right, so here we are back in the testing world, and I'm just gonna go ahead and check our tab, and there's all of our tools and armor. And of course, if we grab some ender pearls, we can go ahead and craft this. There, we'll make our helmet, we'll make our leggings, and our chest plate, and of course the boots as well. And if we grab some sticks as well, we can craft pickaxe, we can craft a sword, we can craft a shovel, we can craft an axe, and we can craft a hoe. And when we go ahead and put the armor on, makes the nice sound, and here we are, all suited up with it. By switching into survival mode here, we can see that this axe can mine wood more efficiently, and the pickaxe can of course mine other blocks more efficiently, just as you would expect. And of course, the sword will be able to kill mobs very effectively. Oh, and of course, who could forget tilling dirt? But I think that's gonna do it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this was helpful and you learned how to make your very own tools, weapons, and armor. In the next one, we're finally going to be looking at how to make machines and more advanced things using procedures. So stay tuned for that and make sure that you get subscribed and stay subscribed so that you don't miss out when that comes out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.